I have been getting the same question over and over again from real estate entrepreneurs, capital raisers, passive investors, CEOs of real estate companies. And that question is, given the amount of uncertainty in the marketplace right now because of COVID, should we be doing deals? Are there any deals that make sense right now? And so to answer that question, we created a webinar with 3 panelists that are elite, savvy, sophisticated real estate entrepreneurs to ask them that exact question. We've got a senior living consultant, which is obviously interesting given the amount of attention to that space. Jillian Hellman, who is the CEO of Realty Mogul, one of the most premier crowdfunding portals in the United States. And Josh Satin, who is the director of acquisitions over at Gelt, has about $1 billion under management. So these 3 people answer that question. And then, of course, we get into the details. So you can get access to that free webinar at cfcmentorshipprogram.com/doing-deals. And I'll see you on the inside. Look, we all know that real estate has created more millionaires than pretty much any other business. The problem is, it's also created a lot of heartaches and bankruptcies. Sure, we can get access to a ton of real estate education on the internet, but that's precisely the problem. How can we tell which strategies will consistently produce asymmetric returns and which should be avoided at all costs? My goal is to give real estate entrepreneurs, capital raisers, and investors all of the secrets so that we can grow our portfolios without dealing with costly investment nightmares. And that's what this program is all about. I'm Hunter Thompson, and welcome to the Cashflow Connections Real Estate Podcast. So I recently went on a journey, very much accidentally, and I wanted to share with you some of the key takeaways of that journey and also why it's important. So what this journey was to figure out how to get a really quality professional looking home office / studio for Zoom meetings and virtual events. And the reason this is important is that I believe that virtual events are going to play a huge role in the business world going forward. Obviously, right now, that's not a bold claim to make, but I think that all of the major corporations and many of the real estate entrepreneurs and real estate companies that you and I both know, any live event that's going forward, it's likely that the virtual component's going to still be there even after COVID is done and not longer in the news. And of course, I've got that on good authority, my wife being a corporate event planner who's seeing the large corporations, now that they have an infrastructure to do the virtual streaming component, that infrastructure is there. So next year, when they want to do a large live event, they can do both in conjunction with each other. And the online component is obviously much more scalable and therefore potentially more lucrative. So I realized this is the case. I want to set up my home office, and I start tinkering around with my DSLR, which is a Canon, and my old computer. And things are a little clunky. I realized it's not really working correctly. I can only record for 30 minutes. And still, it's not exactly 1080p, and I can't figure out why. And so I start researching this topic, right? And then I start to go deeper and deeper and deep. Then I start to figure out how deep this rabbit hole goes and how much you have to know about these topics to actually purchase the right things. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm starting to get a little bit overwhelmed. But again, I want to get this going as quickly as possible. And so I start to think back, okay, how do I learn complicated things in as short amount of time as possible? And the big hack here is that I shouldn't be focusing my energy on how to solve this one little problem about whether or not the Canon can actually record for longer than 30 minutes. What I need to do is find the key thought leaders that are in this space that focus their entire business on this exact thing, live streaming or video recording, especially when it comes to home offices. So once that switch took place, everything changed. I was spinning my wheels, and then all of a sudden, okay, I found this company called Live Streaming Pros. And that's all that they do. They help people set up their office and studio for streaming. That was like the hack. It was so important because once I realized, okay, that's how I learned everything I know about real estate. That's how I learned everything I know about running when I ran a marathon. I found the thought leaders in the space that I felt from a gut feel perspective were the people that I wanted to emulate, and then either reverse engineered what they did or paid to play to some capacity. So because time was of the essence, with Live Streaming Pros, they had a $36 a month program, and they also had a $500 an hour consulting thing. So as I'm getting deep in this, I realized, okay, Canon's not the thing for me. I'll tell you what camera I use in a second. But more importantly, it's so expensive that I'm thinking maybe I should just pay the $500 and expedite this whole process. So You got to think about this. For weeks, I'm trying to just scan the internet, crunching as much information as I can at 2x, 3x speeds, going from 8:30 to 10 p.m. every night for like 2 weeks. I was laying in bed, just hearing people chirping about these numbers and things that I don't yet understand. And finally, I get all the answers to all the questions because I identified the thought leader that I wanted to learn from. And so I wanted to kind of set the stage here because I think that sometimes when we find out how complicated a rabbit hole may be, and it's really, really important, some of us get all burnt out because we're trying to do it alone. You're trying to figure it all out yourself. And there's people that went to college for photography, people that, spent tens of thousands of dollars on different equipment. And if you're trying to do the same thing, you're going to spend thousands of dollars and waste years of your life trying to be the expert. You don't have to be the expert if you don't want to be. You just need to find out who they are. So that's such an important learning lesson. As soon as I figured that out, all the answers were available to me instantly. I didn't have to take the time or the money to do so. I can pay to play, but I'm not going to go and pay for like 8 different cameras to see which one works, like a lot of these professionals have done. So having said all of that, I want to share my current home setup because I know a lot of people want a similar kind of look. And if you're interested, we just kind of started posting our podcasts on YouTube, Cashflow Connections on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and you'll actually see the video versions of these interviews going forward. But here is a short list of the things that you need if you want to get a really quality home video setup in 2020. So I got a new 13-inch MacBook Pro, 32 gigs, and an Intel Core i7. That's kind of the minimum if you want to do a lot of live streaming, but it hasn't caused me any problems at all. I got a Sony a6100 camera. Sony is excellent for streaming. They're kind of the industry standard when it comes to home streaming and Twitch and all this video game streaming that people do. Sony a6100, that's the thing. That's just the body of the camera. The lens is really critical. So the Sigma 16 millimeter lens is what I got. And what you're going to get with that lens, you're going to get a really quality blurred background. That's the real professional shot that I'm sure all of you are familiar with. That's how you get that look. Now, going out of the camera, you plug in something that's called a capture card. And I got a Elgato HD60 S Plus. And so this captures the unchanged 1080p information before it actually goes through your computer, and definitely before it goes through the internet and into Zoom. I also got lights on Amazon. I got a pair of 3 lights for like $200 or $300, and pretty much anything in that realm is going to be great. A really important component, though, here is that I also got 2 lights in the background. So on my background, there's 2 lights showing the depth of field, showing the difference between my head and the background. And that depth creates a really compelling and professional look. I also got a tripod that the Sony stands on top of. So like a 70-inch tripod, and that's just above my computer monitor. And then all that is run through a program called Ecamm Live, which is definitely the leader when it comes to live streaming. So that right there took me about a month to learn. And so I want to give you that because that's going to give you a really good start. Probably costs around $2,300, but $2,300 in terms of instantly being credible with anyone that sees a video that you do from here on out is well worth it. It's going to be the industry standard going forward because, trust me, I do a lot of interviews. People ask me to be on their podcasts and their YouTube channels and such. And the first thing that they do the moment that I turn on my camera is, wow, that's incredible. Tell me everything you got. And I give them that exact list. And then they go out and buy it. So in the next 4 or 6 weeks, you're going to start to see everyone has a really, really quality. It's not because of me, right? It's just because that's the way the wind is blowing. And I don't want you to have to go through what I did, which is driving my wife absolutely insane, listening to, why should I settle for 4K when I can do the 1080p version? And which one's better, the 32 gigabyte or the 64 gigabyte? Listen to this at this ridiculous speed. So anyway, I'm not going to link to all those things. I don't have an affiliate link. I just wanted to give you the information. It's probably a mistake on my part, but there you go. Get out there, get your home office looking good. Oh, the last thing I'd say, really, really important. Getting a wallpaper behind you on Etsy is a good idea. And actually getting a logo of your company is a great idea on Etsy as well. So hope that helps. I know you're going to have a really professional setup and look forward to seeing it. I have been getting the same question over and over again from real estate entrepreneurs, capital raisers, passive investors, CEOs of real estate companies. And that question is, given the amount of uncertainty in the marketplace right now because of COVID, should we be doing deals? Are there any deals that make sense right now? And so to answer that question, we created a webinar with 3 panelists that are elite, savvy, sophisticated real estate entrepreneurs to ask them that exact question. We've got a senior living consultant, which is obviously interesting given the amount of attention to that space. Jillian Hellman, who is the CEO of Realty Mogul, one of the most premier crowdfunding portals in the United States. And Josh Satin, who is the director of acquisitions over at Gelt, has about $1 billion under management. So these 3 people answer that question. And then, of course, we get into the details. So you can get access to that free webinar at cfcmentorshipprogram.com/doing deals. And I'll see you on the inside.